Hello, it's Rahim here. I'm with Tom. Tom is one of my students. Again, he came to look at this project. Obviously, wanted us to talk about this project itself, as well as some rent-to-rent deals, and see how we could learn from it, and then obviously try to replicate and obviously take himself to the next level. So, Kai, welcome to this project. I know I've just shown you around, and you liked what you've seen. This is your first ever ongoing project you've been. So yeah, so tell me what you think.
It's pretty impressive, I'll be honest with you. So you've converted this from a 2-bed single let into a 5-bed HMO, yeah?
Correct.
How's it been?
It's been amazing, you know. Like, I like project like this because it's challenging, and obviously I would have people like yourself to come here and inspire or get an inspiration, because when I started, I thought, wow, this is really hard thing to do. But once you've got the right coach and mentor, it becomes a lot easier. Because my first ever project I did like this, I was like, ooh, am I able to do it? But with that coach and mentor I had then, it helps me now. I can do this. I've got lots of this going, and I don't really have to be there for some of them. So it's good. It's 5 ensuite bedrooms, and it's an amazing project. Very close to the hospital, very close to city centre, and obviously the high street is on the other side as well.
Yeah. Is there many in the area on the street?
Wow, good question. No, not a lot. That's the reason why I actually decided to do it here, and it's amazing. You know, we don't have lots of competitors, and really the way I've done these properties, even the ones that are around, they're not like high-end HMOs. They are just basic standard HMOs. This one I've literally taken it up notch to get the people that I'm really targeting, because we're looking for doctors, accountants, nurses, and contractors, really.
Of course.
Yeah.
How long ago did you purchase this property?
Not long ago. I bought this property about maybe 3 months ago, or just over three months ago.
And it was quite run down, you said, wasn't it?
Whoa, it was literally run down property. It's been vacant for about, I think, 2 to 3 years, and there was damp everywhere when we bought it. Walked in here with my partner. She was like, you know what, you're not gonna do anything to this property. She was really scared. But I like rundown properties. If you remember what I told you, if you think of me basically.
Of course.
You know, the worse the property, the better price you get for it, and the more value you could add. So it was like that.
So was it a direct to vendor agency or?
Good question. No, this wasn't direct to vendor. I picked this up from an auction. As I told you, sometimes you can buy properties from auction, and not too competitive when I bought it, because you needed lots of work, and people did not really know what to do with it. So I had competitors, obviously. When I came to view it, I had about, I think, 3 other people came to view it at the same time. But I was the one who was absolutely on it, and a few people backed out because they wasn't sure what they need to do to the property. So I picked it up at a bargain price, and here we are.
It's good. I was quite surprised, like I said to you at the beginning, of the size of the property from the outside.
Yeah.
So that's why I'm quite surprised why there's not any other HMOs up and down the street.
Yeah, it is surprising. On this road, I don't think there's any, right? But there are few around, and again, they're not the same sort of properties. Some of them are smaller, and some of them haven't got ensuite rooms. So in this area, about 200 yards or so, I would say 300 yards, this is the only ensuite HMO. Here, the advantage is it's very close to the hospital, and it's very close to city centre.
Hitting all them golden rules.
Of course, you know, you have to hit the golden rules, you know, because if you remember what I told you, before you buy the property, you have to have your client in mind. You have to know who your target market is. Who are you building the property for, right? If you've got that back of your mind, when you've got the property, you can then do it according to that way.
So you've obviously checked the demand. Your aim, as you said, is doctors,
Yeah, professionals, basically.
How did you go through that? What research did you go through to ensure that there's enough demand there for you to know that I want this as a HMO? Obviously, there's none in the area, so maybe that could have been risky. Yes,
it could have been. But what we do, obviously, we look at the employers around where we're buying that property, right? We know the hospital is about 20 yards away. That's a big big advantage. We know the city centre that employs professionals, the banks, the law firms are literally about 150 yards away. So these are the sort of thing you need to look for. And looking at the wirehouses like Amazon or DPD, they're literally 300 yards away as well. So even if you want to get contractors that are coming into these employers, you can target those people as well. And obviously it hits the 2-mile radius, because HMOs, you want to be as close to city centre as possible to target the people who will be living in those properties, because most of these people, mind you, they don't drive. They just want to walk to work, get their property very close to where they are. Hence the reason why we're able to secure this property on that basis. It might be, but I based it on professional levels. And obviously you've got the wholesalers round the corner that requires contractors coming in all the time. And obviously the train station, all the rail works are going as well. So it's very, very centrally located. So you cannot get a better place, better than this property right now.
So how have you found managing this kind of project? I can imagine it's been quite full on.
Well, to be honest with you, this property has taken a bit of my time compared to the ones in the north. But it's not overwhelming. It's all to do with properties, right? I literally live about maybe 15 to 20 miles away from this project. So if anything goes wrong, I can come straight away. Yes, just to be on the game, on top of the tradesmen all the time, and to ensure whatever they want, you get it for them. And also advise them not to wait until last minute to tell you what they need. Basically, they need to tell you what they want before time, so you can order it. Especially now with COVID, you know, you don't want them to ask, because the difficulties we had here sometimes is the tradesman wants things instantly, and some occasions I cannot get it, or it has to push me to buy stuff a bit expensive, which I don't normally do. But yeah, that's what it is. But it's a very, very exciting project. I like it. The reason why I like it, because it's very close to my house. You know, I can walk in, see what's happening in the evening, and then drive back home. Yeah, it's a challenging role. I love it. It's exciting, and I look forward to doing lots of them.
So it's quite an interesting story, because the guy who's carrying out the work on this property happens to be your mentee.
Yeah.
So talk me through that relationship. So obviously this has been a learning project for himself. And obviously he's capable of doing the jobs himself. So it's a win-win scenario for the pair of you, really, isn't it?
Yeah, of course. So he is a very good friend of mine now. He's doing really, really well, Kyle himself. He's reliable, honest. The reason why I like him, why I bring him in to work with me, is because of his reliability, honest and transparent. He's very clever as well, because normally I don't get my student to do works for me, or for them to do some project. We just maintain the student side of things, or come in as a JV partner. That's how we do it. But he came in and said, Rahim, I will do X, Y, Z. The only thing I cannot do, he pointed out the stuff he can't do. And then obviously all the rest of it, he's doing, he's managing, he's reliable, he's here on time, doing the works. I don't chase him to do anything. Right, so he's absolutely amazing. And we're currently looking at a few deals that he's looking to buy as well.
Similar project?
Not similar project, but he wants to do the next one, something like this with me as a JV partner, so we can then get it all done together.
And this is the first project you two have done together?
Yes, this is the first project we've done together. So far, it's absolutely amazing.
So potentially first of many?
Yeah, of course. He's hungry as you, basically. Right, he's really, really motivated. He really wants to do well, and he's always asking questions, and he uses common sense a lot, which is what I like him as well. So he's got the energy, you know. I think he can go on to do lots of things, because he's very clever.
It's good that he's got that background knowledge.
And
he's got an expertise to bring to the table, isn't it? So originally you started with rent-to-rent deals, and then you've used that cash flow to go on the single lets. And this is basically where you are now on development.
So
how have you found that progress?
Well, it's an exciting progress and risk-taking, calculated risk. And for me, it's about looking at the future. You know, it's about what you want to achieve in 5-10 years down the line. So I used rent-to-rent because obviously I didn't have money, right? And I thought investing in properties require lots of money, only to find out you don't really. So what I did is to get some HMOs, right, rent-to-rent deals, right? Use the cash flows from those deals to invest in properties. So that's how I started. I had obviously I had trainings, mentorship program, and then that didn't expedite my progress. So what I did was basically is to live below my means, way below my means. Whatever money I get, I put it aside and save it. So and then obviously I use the cash flow from those to put down on deposit to buy investment properties, and then obviously I use that money also to build my estate agency, and then obviously I do now conversions like this as well as commercial conversions as well. But yeah, you all start from the rent to rent. So that was the baseline. If you want to mirror that, it's absolutely amazing. It's a challenging role, I'll tell you now. The reason why is because obviously it's like a job, right? If you don't want property, if you want it to be as an investment, it's like your 2 buy-to-let properties, right? You rent them, you've got nothing to worry about. Every month you get your money. But with this sort of strategy, like the rent-to-rent strategy, it's like a job. You have to manage it, look after it, or you'll be dealing with probably 5 or 6 tenants, 7 tenants in some occasion in one house, and each individual tenant is in a separate contract. But end of the day, it pays you well, especially if you don't own the property.
Yeah. And there's ways you can have them deals and invest remotely.
Yeah.
So what are the key things that you would implement into that strategy? For example, myself being away now, obviously I'm from the local area.
Yeah.
If I'm to take on a rent-to-rent in the Cardiff area, how am I going to systemize that? So cash flow.
Well, you could systemize it. Now you are part of the team anyway. So what you tend to do is to get the property, make sure everything is up and running, it's rented. And any issues, we've got people to work with. As we are here, we've got our builders. You can liaise with our builders to help you do the works. And if there's any viewings needs to be done, again, you may use the estate agency. Or when I started, what I used to do when I had my rent-to-rent in Birmingham is I made friends with the tenant. Right, all my tenants are my friends. Back in the days, they all know me. We go out together and all that sort of thing. So what I do when I've got a viewing, I ask them to do the viewing for me.
Okay.
Right, so that then saves me the trouble of traveling. And now you could actually use the power team that could go and do the viewing for you, and then obviously get the tenant in, and then that way you will systemize it in a way that you don't have to be here to manage the property itself. Whereas I will also teach you how to get the handyman if you don't want to use our handyman, stuff like that. If you want someone to view the property for you as well, there's some ways that you get someone to go and do the viewings for you and all that sort of thing. And the key also is to have the keys accessible when you want to do the viewings.
Definitely, because that saves you a trip down, don't you, if keys go missing or whatnot.
Absolutely.
So obviously it's quite important to implement maintenance costs, void periods. What kind of percentages for the voids and maintenance do you take out of your cash flow, figure-wise? Well,
sometimes I just do 8 to 10%. Sometimes I do 5 to 8%. Depends
of both, or
of the gross rental income.
Okay, so we're talking what, 10% towards voids?
Yeah, 10% towards voids or 8%. That then at least tells you that you've got that void included in your calculations, basically.
And then the maintenance, slightly less?
Maintenance, I tend to go for 5. Again, 5 or 10%. But some of our HMOs, to be honest with you, most of them, we don't do maintenance. We don't do lots of maintenance because the property runs for itself. And the thing is, once you've got a couple of properties or few properties, right, they will look after each other. So you don't have to be spending all that money, but it's just good to have that money aside, knowing that money is there should something goes wrong.
I think it's quite a key thing for people to consider if they are going down the rent-to-rent route.
Absolutely.
Because it's not, I've seen a lot of people take into consideration the cash flow, but then again, they're not preparing for any future occurrences where there's property, which requires any maintenance. If somebody moves out at the end of the tenancy and you're struggling to bring it in, if you haven't got that money set aside, then that's going to affect your cash flow.
Absolutely. So you have to consider your voids, and consider your voids, and also ensure you're getting the right property at the right location, right?
And the market value.
And on the market value, that is key. And also upgrade the properties, right? And that is vitally important because you want to stand out. If you've got tenants in there right now, fine. But once the tenants start moving out slowly, any room they moved out from, upgrade it, maybe have a nice furniture there, paint and decorate it, do all that sort of thing. And that way, then, as soon as that property room becomes empty, you can easily let it. Right? That's always that's what you would always do, because that way you would have your property rented all the time.
Yeah. So it would make sense, obviously, to once you put your initial investment into that property, I would have thought the key thing is to get that money back out before you start investing any money or extra time on the property. Is that right?
Could you repeat that question again? Sorry. Okay.
Obviously, with your initial investment, which you put into that property, the key thing is to ensure that you've got that money out within a set time frame, yes?
Yeah.
So what kind of time frames are you looking at to withdraw that money to see your initial investment back?
Well, it absolutely depends. If you've got the property as a sourced property, then obviously looking at 12 to 18 months, sort of, because you're considering the sourcing fee. If you get the property yourself, I'm looking at 12 months. 7 to 12 months, I've got my money out, because that's it. That sourcing fee is the chunk that sometimes hits you harder. Because sourcing fees are going for 2,000. Someone charge. I've seen someone the other day charge £4,500. That is absolutely crazy. I looked at the deal. That investor will not get their money for about 26 months, and the contract of the deal is only 36 months. So
the one we were looking at, is it?
One of those as well. And then the thing is, right, even the voids, right, and they haven't even taken voids into account.
No.
Right, so unless if you're an amateur investor, you don't want to actually do those deals, because it's not worth your while. And the thing about it also, you don't want to wait until you get your return before you invest in another property, right? As I told you, property is a long game, right? Get a couple of them, making £300-400, right? Don't wait until you get enough before you invest. Whatever you've got, save it, add to whatever you've got, get another one, add to whatever you've got, you get another one. That way it then accumulates. Imagine having 3 properties, each one of them is generating, worst case scenario, let's say £400. You're making £1,200 a month in properties that you don't even own, right? If you times that by 12, you do the maths, you earn about 12k, right, a year. So if you've added some of that, if you've got 5-6 rent-to-rent properties, if I'm going to mentor you, I will have a limit of how many you will get, because you don't want them to suck your energy as well, isn't it? So then we will maybe think about having rent-to-service accommodation now, which is a bit sort of more chill. You're not dealing with tenant, and it gets you higher return on investment.
Yeah, another key thing I think which you should bring up about it is when these companies are sourcing rent-to-rent deals and they put in X amount of figures for like expenses which are going out, utility bills, it's quite hard to give an exact figure on that, isn't it? Because obviously everyone has different usage. So you can put, an average 5-bed is going to use X amount of water or electricity. What contingencies are you going to put in play to ensure that isn't going to affect your cash flow drastically?
Very important question, right? That has impacted us actually. That's a very good question, right? So we had that issue. We had that issue before where the rent-to-rent is going well, right? But what's eating our profit is the electricity and gas.
Yes.
Right? Absolute crazy. Very hard to estimate, but so far we're looking at between 60 to like 90 pounds, okay? So what we started doing now in our rent-to-rent properties is to change them all to smart meters. Once you change them all to smart meters, and then put them straight into pay-as-you-go. Right, that's one option, and then top it up, whatever amount that you decide to pay, right, every month. If it goes over that, the tenant pays it for themselves. They top it up themselves. Or you could leave it as a standard meter, smart meter, and then once the bill comes in, right, you then ask them to pay the difference. If they say they can't pay, you've got their deposit anyways. So when they move out, if they haven't already eaten into all that money, you can just deduct it from there. Right, so somehow you're not going to lose. But what I tend to do now, we've started doing that actually, because it was hitting us hard. Now we started doing them all into smart meters. So once we've got them into smart meters, we change them into pay-as-you-go. We'll warn them in advance, say you're consuming more electricity than you need. We're converting it into smart meters, and then obviously then we will top up the required amount that you paid for. Anything over that, you'll have to fit. You obviously are going to have backlash on it for a couple of months or so, but they would have to adapt to it. And also, the key thing also is to include that cap in your contract.
Yes.
Include it in your contract. Right. If you don't include it in your contract, they would say, well, it wasn't in the contract, so he said all bills inclusive, so you'd have to pay for it. Okay, but you have to have a clause saying this is the maximum amount we could pay for electricity and gas. Anything over that, the tenants are liable to pay for it.
Have you had any dramas with tenants as such?
Yes, of course. We did a changeover recently in one of our properties in Cardiff. Funny enough, it's Malefan Street. Right, and
is he still there?
we're still there. So the tenants came back saying, "Oh, we are rogues, we're criminals. You know, we never told them that bills are not included." We said, "Listen, bills are inclusive, but there's a cap, right? You've signed that contract. It's somewhere there in the contract." They came to the office. One of them came to the office arguing, swearing at us, and he said he wouldn't leave. We are liars and all that sort of thing. We took the contract out. We showed him, listen, this is your contract. That's where it says there's a cap on it. It doesn't mean it's all inclusive. You have to waste it. He said where he used to leave the heating on constantly, and electricity on constantly. I said that's the reason why you got kicked out, because that's going to cost money, and plus it's not environmentally friendly, right? Leaving the heating on all the time. So we had that backlash. We spoke to him politely, but he didn't understand. We had to get the police involved because he said he's not going to leave the office. And he was a bit rude to my staff. So we warned him, he didn't accept. We called the police. The police came round and he explained the situation to the police. We told the police what it is. The police asked us to bring the contract, gave the police the contract. He said it there. And then the police said, that's what it says. They're absolutely right. And then they said, it doesn't mean when it's paid, when it's all inclusive, you should waste it. That's what the police told him. It's not good to you, it's not good to them. And it's worse to them because they're paying the bills for you. And that then calmed them down a little bit because he realized we're not lying, we're not trying to cheat him or something like that. So the police say it is what it is. If you don't like the contract, when the tenancy expires, you feel free to move out. And then obviously that then calmed him down, and then he went back home. We did call him, ask him if everything's okay, and then we come to some sort of agreement. We said, you know what, we know we said we're gonna pay £80, but you know what, as a goodwill gesture, we would pay we would pay £90 for gas and £90 for electricity, and they were happy with that. Since then, we haven't had any issues.
And they've they've stayed in.
They're there because they are in contract. Actually, doing that helped us sell the idea to the other tenants as well, because the other tenant realized, listen, it is what it is. We are overusing it, because some of them were ringing us saying the house is too hot,
right?
Because the heating is on all day. And that then literally raised an eyebrow, and then since then we never had issues with that.
Were they all friends, or they all
no?
Individuals?
They're all individuals.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
I think that's everything from me.
Okay.
Well, actually, I think another important point to go over is cash flow over invested. So rent to rent over a buy to let. Could you go over, the key points over both of them, which...
Right, okay. The key point for rent to rent, the most important point for rent to rent, you don't own the asset. It's not yours. So if you take it for 5 years, you can get your cash flow every month, right? But if the property price went up, it's got nothing to do with you, right? It's to do with the owner. That's one thing. And the other advantage of it, you've got cash flow. You get sometimes between 400 to 600 or 800 pounds net profit in some deals. And then obviously you've got multiple tenants in the property that are paying you rent, right? And then obviously you could live with the tenant if you want to save money, right? Which is how I started. I used to live with my tenant, my rent to rent. That helped me save. I was living bill-free, rent-free. I only used to buy food for myself, basically. And that's the advantage. And the advantage, the disadvantage I've talked about, which is you don't own the asset. And in that advantage of rent to rent, you can walk away when the contract finishes, right? You don't have to actually stick to the property. Advantage of buy to let, you own the asset. Yes. If capital appreciation, if properties goes up, You get money via capital appreciation as well as the cash flow, but the cash flow is not as high as the HMO strategy, but at the same time, it's a steady income that comes in every month, and you're only dealing with one tenant. You don't really struggle about managing different sort of tenant, and that is your property basically, so you make money both ways.
Right, okay. And another thing to go over, obviously a lot of people I speak to know nothing about rent to rent. Their initial thought is, if two of these tenants leave the property tomorrow, that's me losing my profit.
Yeah.
With your contracts, which you issue them, are they effectively tied in over that 6-month period, which, say for example, that's where you issue them? Are you pretty much guaranteed that income off them if they've got a contract for 6 months? Or is there any exit clauses for them if they want to leave early?
No, 6-month contract minimum.
Yeah.
Right, we say this is a 6-month contract. If you move out, you have to pay the remaining term of the contract. If he stays, fine. You need to give us a month notice as well before you move out, so we can advertise the property before you move out. There's no exit clause there. 6-month minimum, you stay until 6 months finishes. And that then guarantees you the rent. But obviously you can have some odd tenant who just want to move out. Tell them they can move out. If they move out, they've lost their deposit. And then obviously you can claim whatever is remaining on the contract to be paid off. And now what we're doing now, most of our new tenants, since COVID started, we tend to ask for guarantors.
Yes.
Right? Say they lived in the property for a couple of months and they want to bug off, you can say, okay, you can bug off, I can go after your guarantor. That then gives you that security to say they will not run away with when they are within the contract. So we don't normally have problems with that. Before COVID, we had few issues with that. We tend to have that issue with international students, international people, especially international students that are doing postgraduate or things like that. They just wake up, say they're gone. So to stop that now, we ask them for 6 months rent in advance.
All right. Okay.
Take it or leave
of
it.
Everyone?
Of every international person, because you cannot reference them. Right, if you cannot reference them because they haven't lived in the country enough, we ask them for 6 month rent in advance.
Right, okay. Yeah. And just another key thing, last thing to go over for yourself, is what are the key points to be cautious of if it is rent to rent, which you're looking to go into? What are the things to make sure that you've got in place? I think a key point which you brought up to me to start you off is having that exit strategy between you and your landlord or agency. After, I believe it's 3 months you do it, isn't it? Yeah,
it's good to have exit clause in the property deal. But for me, what I see is, investing in real estate is a risky game, right? And you are there for the long term. What you don't want is to mess your landlords up, because landlords talk to landlords. They know each other. If you messed up with one, they will go and tell the other one, and then that's how you start losing relationships. But there are exit clause there if you want to exit the contract. Some people panic when it takes a month or two. They haven't rented the rooms. I used to have sleepless nights when I started. I think, oh, what can I do? 2 rooms are vacant now, But you will get used to it, and it is business,
Highs and the lows.
Pardon?
Comes with the highs and the lows.
Yeah, exactly. So if you've got the property empty, there's so many ways to actually get it rented. If you only got a couple of properties, I guess you can spend your time to get as many tenants as possible to view that property, and then hopefully you'll be able to get it rented. But yes, there are exit clause there, and make sure your figures stack up. If you're making £300 profit, make sure it's £300 profit that is there. And don't invest for the future. Don't say, oh, I'm going to get, hopefully I can increase it. See what you intend to do in the property. If you want to uplift, the way you get more money for your rent or rent properties, take it when it's not look amazing, right? Then you can go and add your own feel to it. And then if everybody's charging £400, you can charge maybe £405 or £410 because you've added a bit of extra things in the property. That way you make slight higher sort of cash flow for return on your investment.
Perfect.
Yeah.
I believe that's everything.
Okay.
Thank you for having us come down.
No problem. Really nice to have you.
It's been very inspiring to see, if I'm honest.
Okay.
I'm surprised by the time frame.
Yeah.
Considering the work that's been done.
Yeah.
It's not a straight round flip, really, is it?
No.
You've said you've had damp courses put in.
Yeah.
You've done a full works on it, and I'm sure you're going to reap the rewards.
Yeah, of course, definitely. All right, no worries. Thanks very much for coming around. Really appreciate your time. I really hope you enjoyed this interview and have been inspired to take action. If you are already a property investor, I hope this interview inspires you too to take your property journey to the next level. If you like this video and want to watch more property investment training for free and see my property journey, click the like button below, subscribe to my YouTube channel. I post free property investment trainings every single week. I look forward to sharing the next video. Thank you so much for your support. I really appreciate it.